And it's going to be green light racing here at Monza. Here goes Noah. We're going to try and go wheel to wheel with the leader. Vic, once again, back on the top step. We did say take it easy. Oh my goodness. Sinead's going to go for it here into 14, 15. Side by side. Is it going to be Mercedes or is it going to be a BMW?
Welcome back, everyone, to another round of racing here at Phoenix Sim Sport, and we are here for the season finale. 2 hours of Red Bull Ring loom ahead of the drivers, and 2 hours of amazing battling loom ahead of them as well. Double points today, so drivers will be driving a little bit more aggressive than they otherwise might be. We're going to see some good fights today and the championship decider. Right now, the championship points are looking quite swayed towards Nico, and I believe Nico is on track today, so if he can secure good points here, he will have taken home Season 11 of Phoenix Sim Sport with a very dominant lead of the championship every step of the way. Rufo currently in P2 in the championship. He has Ivanov just behind, but Ivanov would need, I believe, potentially a race win today in order to compete. So Rufo might be safe in his position. Yuzubi very close behind Ivanov for P3, but I believe Yuzubi is not present on track today, so we will not see any change of position there. That being said, Andrew Taggart is just behind Yuzubi and will pass for position if he can score a measly 6 points. And keep in mind, points are double today. That does not mean that you earn points further down the position. It just means every point is worth twice its normal value. So 3 points is quite easy to come by. You just need to finish at P17, and there's 14 people, so he's guaranteed to take that position as long as he crosses the finish line. That being said, he does have Kerlin just behind him, who could take his position away, and Arct just behind as well, also in a position poised to be taken by Kelly, if Kelly does show up today. I'm not sure if Kelly is here today. Not a whole lot of drivers on the grid today, and that is our marker for the start of the qualifying session. Drivers now leaving the pit lane, getting ready to go racing. I will pan over to that very shortly. Just give me 1 second. And we are... should be no technical difficulties. Do let me know if there are any technical difficulties. This week I know we had a few, few last week, both with the connection being a little bit shoddy during qualifying and then eventually fully dropping out during the race. That should be all sorted now. I had a nice talk with the internet service provider and we got it all sorted out. First driver on the track is Linus in that Lamborghini. He will be the first driver to cross the line, the first to set a lap, and the reference marker for all of the other drivers here today. Red Bull Ring is quite an easy track, in my opinion, at least. Very, very good for battling. And, well, generally creates some of the best fighting of any GT3 track. On to the final sector here. This is going to be one of the more difficult ones for drivers to avoid penalties, to avoid track cuts, and to keep their laps valid. Carry a little bit too much speed over the curb and you will have cut it for your qualifying session and validated your very next lap. Cut it during the race and you're very likely going to get a track limits penalty. Ford did look like it was on track for a second there. I was a little confused as to what was going on. Just a little trick of the game, I suppose, there. Something real quick to make this look a little... There we are. Now I can see much better. So, Linus, first driver to set a lap today. He will cross the line before anyone else has had a chance to do so. Livery should be downloaded today, but I believe his livery is not showing up for me. And go on board here and confirm that this livery has not loaded, which is unfortunate because it was one of my favorites of the gallery. I'll probably pull up a picture of it if it does not load. Pull up a picture of any livery that does not load for today. Don't know why. I have synced the liveries twice on Awesome Sim Racing, so they should be showing up, but they are not. Which is never a good thing. Down through into the final sector he goes, and this will be a good reference lap for the rest of the drivers to attempt to beat. Crosses the line with a time of 1 minute, 29 seconds, 0.295. A lap time that will be beaten both by himself and the other drivers, but it's a good banker lap. Banker lap just meaning your first lap. Take it a little bit easy, take it a little bit slower. Ivanov crossed the line with a 29.5, and new lap time for Andrew Taggart, a 29.2. 29.27, or 2.37, so just a little bit better than Linus was able to do in front, and now it's going to be the full charge for the Phoenix SimSport McLaren to improve that lap time much as he can. I'm seeing a lot of rooting for Glanville in the chat. Glanville is yet to set a lap. I believe he has just started his lap time. Or no, he is just about to start his lap time, unless he has already been on a hot lap. I don't get any reference on my sheet for that. And it is an invalid lap, so he is not on a valid lap yet. Now he is, and he will go through turn 1. A little bit careful over that first curb. You really do have to send it, especially in a car like the McLaren, where so much of your turn-in comes from that initial rotation. You really have to use as much of the opening section of the corner as you can to get that car thrown in. And right now, he's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. He will have to worry about that. Improving on his invalidated lap right now, so 0.1 up on what was a 29.4. He needs 0.2 of a second to put himself into a temporary pole position. Quite a few drivers on track and quite a few drivers off track right now. Ivanov goes fastest of the session with a 28.907. So great lap time from the Lamborghini driver to just extend a little bit of a lead over Andrew Taggart and the rest of the field. Andrew had improved on his lap, not enough to set a 28 just yet, but just shy of the 28s. Linus has not improved his lap. His last lap at 33, so he slowed down at the final few corners to get a good launch. Flynn on improvement with a 30.89 as his reference time. Crossing the line now, Max Glanville will set himself up into a really good position here if the reference time is anything to go by. But it's not quite anything to go by yet, as he sets a 29.5. Good enough lap time for P4, and he will certainly improve as he goes through turn 1, up a 1/10 of a second already, and I can see plenty of time up for grabs for many of these drivers. Oliver Flynn crosses the line. He will improve on his lap and set himself just behind Glanville. Does not improve his position, but does significantly improve his lap time, and that means he is much safer from drivers behind such as Joe Viper, who is on big improvement right now, 0.4 up on their lap time. That will be enough to potentially challenge for P6? No, not enough to challenge for P6. He'll need a lot of improvement here through the final sector, but there's always the chance he made a mistake on his reference lap. And now, through the penultimate corner, through the final corner, heavy braking for the BMW, misses the apex, but it's okay. Up on his lap time, but it's not okay, actually, as he crosses the line. Just cutting that final corner, losing his lap time. Thankfully, his next one is not invalidated, so he will be able to give it another try. And we will refresh before the end of the session, because I'm seeing quite a few liveries that did not download, and I'm wondering, maybe I didn't actually leave the game. which wouldn't wouldn't be conducive. Sorry, wouldn't. I don't know what the word is there. Wouldn't necessarily help the matter at all. You have to leave the game and rejoin for liveries to show up, so if I did not do that, then that is why the liveries are not showing up. So they are likely synced, it's just I didn't. User error. Linus back into the pit lane after what was a really good lap, so I wonder what happened there. Quite a few drivers today have pit lane, not a pit lane start, have a qualifying ban. So they will be required to start from the back of the grid. It's sort of mitigated by the amount of drivers that have the qualifying ban. After all, that many qualifying bans does mean that you don't really have to worry about the other drivers, especially in a field so small. It is a little bit of a sad turnout for today. 14 drivers on track is not nearly as much as you might hope, especially for an end-of-season event worth double points. And someone has redeemed hydrate, so everyone make sure you hydrate. It's always a good thing to make sure you have lots of water. I have a full thing of water next to me. It is 2 hours of racing. My voice is going to definitely be strained. Nico did go P1 for just a little bit, but Andrew Taggart will take that lap time away with an improvement of 0.03 over Nico's lap time. Both of them doing a 28.6, 28.67 for Andrew Taggart, and 28.7, sorry, for Nico. So not a 26. Or not a 28.6 for Nico, but just barely off of it. Max Glanville, I'm looking to see where he is right now. He is still in P7, has not improved off his banker lap time, but he has had some invalidated laps that did improve on his lap. So he should be able to improve and set himself up a few positions here if he gets the lap time in that he needs. Really doesn't need to improve by very much to improve his lap and his position. Lap times are relatively close, but we are nearing the end of the qualifying session. Just 30 seconds left on the clock. This is not looking good for some of these drivers. I think most of the drivers you see in the pit lane right now are the drivers who have had a qualifying ban. So that'll be the 4 drivers at the back of the grid. They will not get a lap time in, and Andrew Taggart will not get a final lap time in as he dives into the pit lane. Now it's on Nico to respond. Andrew Taggart is P1 provisionally, and Nico is not improving right now. 0 seconds left on the clock, so this is his final lap. He needs to find under a tenth. He needs to find half a tenth of a second, but right now he's down 0.3 of a second. If he doesn't improve, he will not start this race on pole position. And I believe Nico has the most pole positions of any driver so far this season. It's been a dominant performance for the Ferrari driver, but it looks like Andrew Taggart is trying to take that away, trying to claim a pole position of his own and challenge for the win of the final race of the season. If you are going to win any race, the final race of the season is certainly the one that you do want to win. Linus will improve his position up into P3, a 28.8. Great lap time from him. And Nico will cross the line. 0 seconds on the delta right now. And it's not going to be improvement for him. So Nico will not start the race in pole position. It'll be Andrew Taggart leading the field around for the start of this race. And I will just rejoin the server right now to ensure that liveries are properly showing up. Should be a good race today. Red Bull Ring, of course, is a great track for racing. You can see it on your screen right now. Turn 1 is going to be one of the trickier sections of the racetrack for drivers to navigate, especially as you run wide, get penalties. Those penalties will add up quick. There's 2 hours this time. We've seen drivers get penalties already in 1 hour races. well, now double the length, and your safety window is now cut in half, if not a little bit more. And I believe liveries are properly working now, as my game has frozen to load them in. So do give it a minute. Drivers will be stationary on the grid for the formation lap for just a little bit, so there's not really any risk of missing out on anything. Nobody has even gotten out of the qualifying session just yet. Make sure all my things are working. I believe that they are. Are indeed working. We'll make sure all the data is input properly. Still haven't gotten onto the grid for the formation lap, so drivers still have at least 5 minutes of time before the start. Actually, I believe that might have been cut down just a little bit. I think 3.5 minutes now instead, as the it was a little bit long before, but now it is absolutely not. Red Bull Ring should be a good race for the final race of the season. For everyone who was rooting for Glanville, I'll let you know where he started. Max Glanville is starting P7, Andrew Taggart P1, Nico in P2, Linus in P3, Ivanov P4, Oster in P5, Mallow P6, said Max was in P7, Oliver Flynn in P8, Joe Viper, P9, Bean in P10, and then the 4 drivers who were serving their qualifying bans have all started at the back of the grid. That's Zachary, Jonathan, Dennis, and Zach Webby. 14 drivers on the track, and that is 14 positions up for grabs. It's going to be an exciting race today. I think we are all good now. Go through and check all the liveries. So we have Andrew Taggart with his standard Phoenix SimSport McLaren, still my favorite livery on the grid. Nico with his classic Ferrari livery, ran it since he first raced in Phoenix SimSport and has not changed it since. He did win I believe it was 4 hours of Barcelona. An amazing drive from him to take that, and he's showing why he deserves the season win now with how well he's driven. Linus livery is now showing up, so now we can see this wonderful Lamborghini livery. Probably my favorite of the Halloween liveries, but we haven't seen all of them yet, so we will continue down the grid. Ivanov with a classic Lamborghini livery he's run from the start of the season. Also one of my favorites on track. It's simple, and I do tend to like simpler liveries more. Oster with a default in-game livery, but it does look very, very nice. Good use of the colors. Mallow with another default in-game livery, and I believe it is the colors of a flag, but I don't remember which flag it is, and I don't want to accidentally get it wrong. Max with a car that does not have a livery, so I wonder if maybe it was uploaded improperly or did not get synced, because other liveries, such as Oliver Flynn's, did get downloaded. And I think emboldened by the spirit of Halloween, this livery is looking very, very nice. Probably the most Halloween looking livery on the grid, and his teammate Joe Viper with just a little bit of a change on the side. I believe the numbers are those pumpkins, which is very unique. Do appreciate that little detail. I hope I'm not mistaken there. You have a smaller screen than anyone watching at home will. The Bentley with a default in-game livery, just a bright pink, and we do appreciate the neon colors when it comes to cars on the grid. Zachary in P11 with a default livery for the Ferrari. Jonathan with a nice-looking AMG livery. I believe we've seen this plenty of times before, and we'll see it plenty of times again. Dennis at the almost back of the grid in a default in-game McLaren. I believe teammates with I want to say Mallow was the one. Yes, Mallow is his teammate, so I did get it right. And Webby in the final position with the 757 Halloween-inspired livery. I see the purple British flag at the back of the car. Don't know how well the Brits will enjoy the flag being so hard to see, but I do appreciate the livery. I think I would have added a little bit more orange, honestly. I love the 757 on the side of the car. And speaking of, we are nearly ready to start this formation lap. Just a few seconds left, I believe, but can't really tell. I don't get a reference for that. Oddly enough, I thought I did. Andrew Taggart will lead the field for the start of this 2-hour race, and he will be fighting with Nico through the first corner. I don't know how much Nico is going to fight it after all. Nico has no risk of penalty here, and no real risk of losing his championship position. Andrew Taggart will be fighting with other drivers for position as he is in a championship fight, and he will lead the field now for the start of the formation lap. Hopefully the only formation lap we have to do today. We've seen quite a few red flags this season already, and it would not be nice to see one on the final race of the season. 2 hours ahead of these drivers, 2 hours of racing for them to do, and 2 hours of potential position changes. That was the wrong scene there. They're all good now, though. Oh, final round of racing for Season 11. Let's make it a good one. Let's see what they can do. Happy Halloween, I suppose. We are just a few days after Halloween, but not really a chance to say it any sooner than that. Would have liked to see a little bit more Halloween liveries on the grid, but you get what you get. And right now we are just relaxing and waiting for this race to get rolling. Will be a little bit more conservative with my voice as it is 2 hours of racing ahead. .757 is represented in the chat. We have Max Glanville fans as well. We might see Nico pop into the chat as well. I know he likes to join us on the stream while he is driving. Constructors Championship right now. I actually did not look at it. I forgot there was a Constructors Championship, but there absolutely is. And 757 is leading the Constructors team, or rather Team Championship, not Constructors. 757 Motorsport is leading the teams right now with 131 points over Papaya Rules with 96 points, and the 757 Audi Customer Racing with 91 points. So good fight here for P2 in the Constructors. 757's two teams could take P1 and P2 respectively. And speaking of P1, we round the final corner here to end the formation lap, to start the race. 2 hours of racing here for the finale to Phoenix Sim Sport. Double points on offer, so drivers will fight tooth and nail for every position they can get. Andrew Taggart leads the field, Nico just behind him, and we're getting ready to go racing here in the wonderful track of Red Bull Ring. Crossing the line now, it will be green in 3, 2, 1, and it's green, 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 and away we go. It's a good launch for Nico. We're a little bit far right now, but it's also a good launch for Andrew Taggart. And I believe that was Ivanov with the best launch of them all. Andrew Taggart keeps it around the outside. Linus will go side by side with Ivanov, and Nico now falling back off the back of Andrew Taggart down into turn 2. Rather turn 3 as it's called here at Red Bull Ring. Will Nico send the dive? He will not send the dive. Ivanov will send the dive down the inside, very late on the brakes. side by side behind them as well, and Ivanov will make the move on Linus. For the moment, Linus gets a better run out of the corner, and that will be side by side down into turn 4. Side by side for Ozdir and Glanville as well. Glanville trying to make the move, trying to move himself up a fair few positions. Ivanov holds on to the position for now, and Ozdir goes side by side with Max Glanville. Max on the inside, turns to the outside for this next corner. He's moved himself up from P7 to P6, now looking for P5, but backs out of the move, thinks better of it, and now will stay behind just for a little bit. And it's a great launch from Max Glanville to get himself into P6 at the very start of this race. Good launch from Andrew Taggart to hold on to P1, and a great move from Ivanov to move himself into P3. So already a whole lot of action happening on the grid, and Nico and Andrew Taggart very, very close out of the penultimate corner. This could be a run for him down into turn 1. We'll see what Nico can do out of this final corner. It's a much better launch for the Ferrari driver. They're going to go side by side across the line. Andrew Taggart with the higher top speed. Nico with the better launch out of the corner, and the better launch has that inside line. Andrew Taggart breaks early, backs out of the move, and now he'll try to make the move down into turn 3. But now Ivanov on the back of Andrew Taggart looking for the move as well. Andrew has to go defensive to that inside line, and Ivanov looking to the outside, thinking about the move. Absolutely going to go for the move here as he switches to the inside line. Will it be a dive from the Lamborghini driver? It's a late dive from the Lamborghini driver who just about sticks to the inside. Andrew Taggart around the outside manages to hold on to it. Now Linus has a move around the outside of Ivanov. Turns to the inside line for Ivanov on this next corner. So Ivanov still has that defensive line, but Linus does have the lead into the corner. Heavy braking from the pair of them, but Ivanov just a little bit later in the brakes, and that Lamborghini doing a wonderful job braking late for the corner. Now Linus hits the gravel on the exit of the corner. Slows down. Ozdir has a run down into turn 6. Heavy braking for the Lamborghini driver. Keeps him in front just for now, but it's a bad run out of the corner. That gives Ozdir and Glanville both time to concertina and close in, and 4 cars all bumper to bumper battling for P4. This is a fight for a near podium. Ivanov right on the back of Andrew Taggart as well, so Andrew's not out of harm's way yet. And is that Andrew Taggart into the pit lane? No, that it's just a poor line from the McLaren driver. He might lose another position here as we go down the main straight, and it's a massive run for the Lamborghini, who has to back out of the move, brake on the exit of the corner. So he will not be able to make the move down at turn 1, but it's going to be Linus closing in very, very quick on the back of that Lamborghini, cruising down towards turn 1. Not going to be able to make the move just yet. Ozdir closes in on the back of Linus here down the main straight, or down the second straight. There's a lot of straightaways here at Red Bull Ring, which means low wing and lots of cornering instability for the drivers. Ozdir makes a dive down the inside. He will take the position away. Max gets passed around the outside by Mallow. Mallow just taking advantage of the move happening in front. That slows down Max, and Max is not able to defend his position as he would otherwise. Around the outside move for Linus. It's so late on the brakes, but the Lamborghini's going to stick it all the way out to the blue section of track. Doesn't clip the gravel on the outside. Manages to just about keep the speed, and it's a beautiful run from the Lamborghini, who doesn't manage to take advantage of it. But Ozdir, now under threat from the car behind, will have to watch his mirrors. And it's a bad run for the Aston Martin. Good run for the Lamborghini. Could turn into a move out of the final few corners here. We'll see what they can manage to do as Ozdir thinks about defending, but goes back to the racing line last minute. Linus will be looking, will be seeing, and will be knowing that the Aston Martin in front is watching his mirrors, and watching his mirrors maybe a little bit too much as he makes a mistake out of the final corner. Ivanov goes side by side with Andrew Taggart as well down the main straight. Ivanov has the inside line, Andrew Taggart has the outside line, and it's so late braking from the Lamborghini today. Now Ivanov just cruising through these corners, but it's a good launch from Andrew Taggart, who takes advantage of that late braking, takes advantage of the poor line of the Lamborghini, gets the switchback, and now down into turn 3, he will have that inside line, will be fully ahead before the corner, and so late braking from Linus, who collects Ivanov. Ivanov off the track, using the runoff to keep his car in one piece. Ozdir leaves space for him to rejoin, and now it's side by side for Ozdir and Ivanov, and side by side for Mallow and Max. and down into turn 4. It's getting a little bit rough out there for the drivers. A little bit of contact between Ozdir and Ivanov, but now that's Ozdir in front. Mallow and Max will get slowed down by Ivanov, nearly 3 wide, but they think better of it. Ivanov defends to the inside line. Max makes the pass on Ivanov. Ivanov late on the brakes will make the pass yet again. Max just a little bit early now puts himself in a spot of contention with Mallow, side by side through turn 7, and still side by side on the exit. A little bit of contact made between the two McLarens, but it's just rubbing doors. It's fine racing by me. The Linus now looking to make the move on Mallow just in front. Very, very close between the drivers, and Ivanov will be thinking about pushing forward. He's right on the bumper of Ozdir right now. Has to think about trying to get back to his position, fighting with Andrew Taggart. Andrew Taggart will be able to breathe a breath of fresh air now that he's not under threat, but we might see a 3-wide battle into T1. No, the Audi backs out. Brakes early, lifts a little bit on the straight, and stays behind Mallow and Linus right now. And woo, what a battle it has been so far. It was a big shunt. I'm surprised that Ivanov kept driving. It was a shock to see Ivanov continue to go after that. Webby, late on the brakes, will pass. Nearly does the same to Linus. It's a bad exit for the Audi driver, but he just manages to get on that power. I don't know how these drivers are doing it right now, but this is some pretty intense fighting for just the opening laps of a 2-hour race. Keep in mind, 2 hours of racing ahead of these drivers. They don't need to make these moves. This is just how they want to drive, and I suppose the risk is worth it if you're having this good a time. Every driver here seems like they're having a blast so far. Bar for maybe Ivanov with the with getting taken out. Joe Viper will go side by side with Bean for P11, and Joe Viper will just about pull ahead. Bean will give him a bump draft out of the corner and now backs out through turn 7. Will not make the move, but he has lost the position now to Joe Viper, who has moved himself just a little bit forward of the grid. I believe he started in P13, but could be mistaken, and now he is trying to close in on Jonathan in front. It has been quite the race so far. I've had like no breathing room at all. It has spread out just a little bit. You can see the deltas on the left-hand side of your screen. Orange numbers mean that they are close, but they are not close enough to make a move, and red means they are almost side by side. Anywhere from 2 seconds to, I believe, 0.4 of a second is a orange. And anything between 0.4 and 0.1, as Bean is demonstrating right now, is red. And Bean will make the move, or try to make the move. It's late braking for Joe Viper, who runs wide of the corner. He will get the power down, but it's not going to be enough to hold on to the position. So Bean will pass again. And now that leaves Joe Viper in a position where he will have to fight back against the Bentley, who is so quick in a straight line. And that really does impact things significantly at a track like Red Bull Ring, where it's so important to be quick. That said, Bean did get a poor exit, so that is an opportunity for Joe Viper to close in. Another driver who is closing in is Zach Webby, closing in on the back of Linus here. Ivanov has dropped back of Ozdir now, just a little bit, so I wonder if drivers are starting to control their pace a little bit more, starting to realize, hey, these tires might not last if we're fighting like this for an entire hour. I think it's the smart thing to do. Max with a bad exit, losing the position to Linus here. I didn't quite catch what happened, but now it is up to Max to try to gain back that position as he drops back to P6. Still a position up from where he started, but we will have a look and see what happened here on the exit of the final corner. I think it's going to be a little bit of a mistake, and it is a big slide for the McLaren. Runs wide all the way out onto the grass, and that's why he's lost the position. That's why he closed in so quickly behind Linus, passing him just basically like he's stationary. There's really no defending that for Max. And just a little bit of a mistake. It does happen. It's better to run wide like that and lose the time and not get the penalty than get the penalty, in my opinion. But some drivers will see it differently, and I'm not sure how Max sees it. I don't think I've ever spoken to him. But personally, I think that's the best way you can go off track. It'll have not been a warning, so he'll be no closer to a drive-through penalty. He'll just have lost the position, so now he needs to make this overtake. And I don't think he'll have too much difficulty, but he could. Andrew Taggart now once again under threat from a car behind and significantly dropped off the back of Nico here. So it was a really close qualifying performance. Is not looking very good for the McLaren, as he's looking very close to losing another position, and it is the Aston Martin. Very quick in a straight line. Not the best cornering, so Andrew Taggart will have the advantage in the corners, but Oster showing quite some prowess with the Aston Martin, keeping good pace through T1. T3 is where the Aston Martin will struggle a lot compared to the other cars. It's a very low grip traction zone. These tend to be more in favor of the McLaren, but not the McLaren's happiest of corners. Bean and Joe Viper side by side yet again as they go on the exit of T1. And I believe Bean, just with a better launch, will hold the outside line for T3. And Joe Viper, late on the brakes, will just about leave the room on the outside. Bean drops in behind, tried to go for the switchback, but Joe didn't leave the space. There was never going to be a door open there, and Joe defending nicely here on the inside line. He needs to hold that inside for turn 4 if he wants to have a chance of fighting against this Bentley. You can see just how much the difference in pace on different sections of the track are. Joe Viper significantly quicker in the corners, Bean significantly quicker on the straights, and that creates for a very interesting dynamic when you're fighting, because that is the weaknesses and strengths you have to take into account when you're going side by side. Joe Viper will get the position, he will stay ahead for now, but he will have to worry about the Bentley on that main straight. The pit lane straight, very, very long, very, very fast, leads into another fast section. Sector 1 and Sector 2 are the Bentley strengths, and the BMW, it's an all-rounder car. It tends to be good everywhere, but not great anywhere. So, it's a risk you have to take. Ozder and Ivanov side by side, so I think a little bit of a mistake for Ozder. We'll have Ivanov side by side and around the outside of turn 3. It's a big sweep for the Lamborghini driver who just about manages to keep it on track and will claim the position for his own. And now down into turn 4. Ivanov will hold on to the position, and now he can go chase down Andrew Taggart, as he had only a few laps prior. Really hasn't been that much time elapsed throughout the race so far. It's just been so much back and forth. We will have a look at that move in the replay if I can manage to find where it was, because I can't imagine that was done without some sort of mistake from the driver in front, and it was just a really, really bad exit from the Aston Martin, losing so much pace on the exit of T1, and Ivanov just cruises on by side and makes the pass down into turn 3. So great move from the Lamborghini driver, especially holding it around the outside through turn 3. Aston Martin sticking it to the inside line, doing all he can to defend that position, but it is not enough to stop Ivanov from snatching it away and putting himself just behind Andrew Taggart. You can see the deltas on the left. Those are not from the replay. Those are the live deltas. So he is actually 0.3 behind the McLaren right now, and we will cut back to that so we can all see. Linus very, very close behind Ozder here. So 4 cars battling for this podium position. Very late on the brakes for all of the drivers in that fight right now. And Linus and Ozder both running a little bit wide of the corner. I think Ozder having to take some avoiding action. Ivanov maybe had to take a little bit of avoiding action. And Andrew Taggart builds this gap back just a little bit healthier. He really, really needs to get his foot down, though. He's under so much pressure right now, and that pressure cannot be doing him well. Just those small mistakes, those are going to add up very quick. They're going to eat up the tires. They're going to eat up the fuel. You're going to have to pit earlier. Potential for damage, potential for penalties. It's really not a position you want to be in as a driver. Ivanov is probably in the best position here. He's cruised ahead of Ozder. He knows he's faster, and he's fighting tooth and nail right now. The aggressing driver usually has the advantage. Ozdir tries to go side by side with Ivanov. That's going to compromise his exit. And now Linus makes the move to Ozdir. Side by side, inside line for Linus. Using the slipstream of Ivanov in front. Might go side by side. Outside line for the Halloween Lamborghini. Ozdir making contact with the back of Linus. Will spin himself and the Lamborghini out. Max having to take avoiding action. All the drivers having to take avoiding action. An incident there as Ozdir tries to rejoin. Wasn't quite keeping an eye on that. Not entirely sure what happened there. Oster is moving again. Mallow is moving again. Jonathan has closed in on the back of Mallow, so he might make the move off of this critical error through T1. And he will be side by side down into turn 3. Will it be Jonathan taking the position away from Mallow? And it absolutely will be Jonathan taking the position away from Mallow. Good exit from the McLaren driver who has to take avoiding action off the track. We'll go side by side down into turn 4. We'll have a look at that incident yet again here in a minute, but we need to see the outcome of this battle first. It really wasn't the type of incident you want to see on track. It's a sweep around the outside for the McLaren. It's a great move so far. A little bit of clip of the gravel will slow him down, but heavy braking, late braking, and around the outside he goes. A beautiful move through turn 8, and a great drive from Mallow to hold that position against all odds there. Jonathan looks to the inside, but there's not going to be a way for him to pass this McLaren. Not right now. Not so soon. That will be Mallow holding on to his position, not giving way so easily. We'll have a look at that turn 1 incident. Just heavy braking from the Aston Martin as the two fought in front. I think they broke just a little bit earlier than Ozdir was expecting. And then, was it a reverse or was it just... Yeah, it was a reverse, so that's going to be an unsafe rejoin penalty for the Aston Martin driver. It's unfortunate, it's an easy mistake to make, and it's a very, very costly mistake to make, as now, not only has he crashed out, but he's also got himself an extra penalty to boot. Ivanov has stayed right with Andrew Taggart. This gap has not opened nor closed, and Ivanov will be... I think quite happy with his position right here. You're not really going to catch Nico in this situation. Nico is already 20 seconds down the road. So that just leaves Ivanov and Andrew Taggart to fight as hard or as light as they need. And the aggressing driver here always has the advantage. Andrew Taggart will absolutely know that Ivanov has the advantage. Ivanov is showing that he is quicker and now gets a much better line out of the final corner. Not going to be spaced to the inside, just thinking a little bit of second guess there for the Lamborghini. Heavy braking for the Lambo though around the outside. Not going to be the space, not going to be the time. And it will stay behind just for now. Bad line for Ivanov, sends him back just a little bit. He'll have to close that gap yet again. That will eat up his tires. That'll close the gap to Max, who's had a wonderful race so far from P7 to P4, taking advantage of every mistake presented in front of him. And now he's in the fight for a podium. So great drive from the unpainted McLaren to set himself right into this fight, right with the front two. Two of the podium drivers. And all of this fighting has dragged Nico further and further down the road. Nico is here in the chat. He is here in the chat. You might want to slow down a little bit. I don't think there's any reason to drive as fast as you're going now. You're setting quali pace for a 2-hour race? I would consider that too fast, but, you know, that's just me. Ivanov right on the bumper of Andrew Taggart as we go through the final section again. This is where Andrew is struggling so much. And it's that early turn in there. I don't know if anyone noticed that. He's turning in so early, and it's costing him dearly. So much lap time lost just by clipping that curb too early. Especially where you want a late apex through that final corner. Early apex will not serve you well. Max Glanville right on the bumper of Ivanov here. He's thinking about making the move as well. So now Ivanov's position turns from really, really good to not so good. Webby as well closing in on the battle here for the podium. And it's going to be late braking from Max, who takes out Ivanov, spinning off the road. The Lamborghini driver yet again finds himself off the track to another driver's mistake. And I think Ivanov is going to get a little bit tired of the same thing happening over and over. I don't think he did anything wrong there either. Really is just other drivers having a little bit of a miscalculation and crashing into his bumper. We'll look at it again just to make sure I'm not getting anything mistaken here. Heavy braking for the Lamborghini, but heavier braking for the McLaren, who just bumps into the back of his car. Spins him out. Thankfully, Ivanov got moving again relatively quick. It could have been worse. Certainly could have been worse for Ivanov. And now, Andrew Taggart is yet again given some breathing room, as, well, Max is guaranteed a penalty for that incident. And that does mean that Andrew Taggart doesn't really have to worry about being passed by Max. Not only that, but Max is, well, I was going to say a little bit slower, but Max is showing some pace here. Off onto the marbles, down into T1. Stays to that inside line. Heavy braking for the two McLarens. Sweeps around the outside. Andrew Taggart not getting the run he needed. And now this might be 3 wide for the podium. Down into turn 3. Max on the inside. Andrew Taggart on the outside line. Outside line can absolutely work here. Max very, very late on the brakes will push Andrew Taggart off the road. And now that is Webby gaining the position. Ivanov as well gaining the position. So Max just overcommitting on the brakes. Takes a very, very wide line. And Andrew Taggart didn't account for it. Gets sort of shown the wall. And now very, very close between all the drivers. Max runs wide. We'll lose the position to Ivanov. We'll lose the position to Andrew Taggart. That might have been him giving way. That will be seen by the stewards after the race. Now Andrew Taggart in a position where he will have to fight back against the driver who's been on his bumper for so long. Ivanov somehow managing to get back to his original position. I'm sure he's quite thrilled with the outcome of that. And Max will now be fighting back with Andrew Taggart to get back into P4. Any position he gains here is a net gain off his qualifying position. Keep in mind, Max started P7. He's fighting far, far above where he had been before. And Max now inside line yet again, a repeat of the last lap. Andrew Taggart just dropping back so quick. And now Andrew Taggart giving way, not going to fight the position again down into T3. Yeah, Webby absolutely taking advantage of every opportunity presented to him to just fly down the road, fly up the grid, and manages to get into P2. He will be under threat from Ivanov soon enough. Ivanov has shown some incredible pace today. He's just been in so many incidents, and I really can't see many of those incidents being Ivanov's fault. Of course, we don't have the best view here as stewards. As the stewards do, rather. Here in the commentary booth, we see from a sort of side-on view, so some of the lateral movements of the cars and other things are not quite so obvious. So we try not to make judgments too early, especially based off of camera angles like this. Stewards will have a look at the incident after the race. They'll see it top-down. They'll see all the little details that we miss out on, and they will go over the rulebook and make sure everything is as it should be. Speaking of as it should be, Oliver Flynn moves himself up a position, Bean dropping down, and Dennis right on the bumper of Bean will now have to contend with the Bentley straight line speed. Very, very close between the BMW and that Bentley's front bumper, and nearly a collision, but not quite one so far. Down onto the final sector here for all three of these drivers, fighting tooth and nail for P11. It's still worth good points. It's worth real good points today. And I believe this might be a championship fight for some of these drivers, so they will absolutely fight tooth and nail. This is worth everything they can throw at it. And down the inside goes the McLaren. Dennis Not the best of lines for him, having to take a little bit of avoiding action as the Bentley didn't get quite the launch that he was expecting it to. And has to stay behind for now. Bean, watching the BMW in front of him disappear down the road, will be trying to push forward to catch up. Viper and Gorney are rivals in this championship, so yeah, that makes sense then. That does mean Dennis will have to really fight to push himself forward if he wants to take that position in the championship. This Joe Viper is quite a ways down the road right now. You can see the gap on the left-hand side of your screen. 11 seconds separate him and Flynn is leading this field right now. Bean running wide will lose the position to Dennis, and now Dennis can chase down Flynn. Apologies. I think I need a little bit of water. It's been a very active 30 minutes. It's only a quarter of the race through, and so much has happened. Andrew Taggart will certainly be the highlight for me. Or perhaps a low light in a sense. He will need to push forward to get back to his original starting position. He's dropped back so far from where he once was. Zach Webby runs wide of the corner. He will lose the position to Ivanov, maybe losing another position here as they go down the back straight. Max on the bumper of Webby will think about the move down the inside. Is it going to be a move for the McLaren driver? Very late under braking, but it's going to be Webby holding it in front with equally late braking and equally wide sending around the outside. Left space, but Max just wasn't able to brake late enough to take that space. So the 757 Motorsport Audi doing a great job to hold on to P3. And down into the final sector. Audi is quite difficult to drive here. I think it is much quicker on the straights. Audi has always been a straight line speed car here in ACC, and today is no exception, especially a track like Red Bull Ring. Max will have a little bit of an advantage through the corners, though. The McLaren is incredibly quick when it comes down to tracks like this, where there's so many high-speed corners and so many straightaways. Through Team 1, a better line for the Audi will drag that gap out just a little bit. And down through Turn 2, which really shouldn't be called Turn 2. I don't think you can consider that a corner. But Turn 3 absolutely can be considered a corner, and around the corner they go. Webby will now be chasing down Ivanov, trying to get back into P2. It's an amazing position if he can manage it. But Ivanov has shown some incredible pace, we were saying, and I don't think that pace is going to slow down or anything. Especially given how many times he's been hit this race. I think he's got quite the motivation to get away from other drivers. As does Max, as he wants to get himself as far forward as possible for the potential penalties that may come his way. Don't think there's going to be a penalty between him and Andrew Taggart. It's late braking from the both of them. It was unfortunate that it ended in Andrew Taggart losing the position, but it was a little bit late from. It was a little bit late, but it's hard fighting, and we really don't want to penalize hard fighting here. Hard fighting is what makes motorsport good. But ultimately, that's up to the stewards. And, well, I don't think it was a contact incident, so it's up to the driver if they feel that they have been significantly impacted by the incident and feel it warrants a penalty. But otherwise, a report like that is not made without stewards actually seeing that the driver... Dennis on the bumper of Flynn here. He does need to get past and close that gap to Joe Viper if he wants to have a chance with his championship rival. Through Niki Lauda curve is turn 1 here at Red Bull Ring. And not a great line for the McLaren driver, who falls back behind Flynn just a little bit more. should be able to stay close enough to make the move when the opportunity presents itself. Oh, is that a driver off the track? That's Webby spun off into the barriers. Oh, a huge, huge incident for the Audi driver. I'm not sure what happened there. We'll need to take a look at that. Looked like he just speared off the track into the wall. Linus on the bumper of Andrew Taggart here down the main straight. I hope Webby was able to get the car moving again after that. Linus on that outside line will have to do a late braking maneuver in order to take this position, and it is late braking from the Lamborghini, who's just barely left space by the McLaren. It's a little bit of a squeeze, but it's a squeeze he's fully entitled to do, and now Andrew Taggart has to defend the inside yet again if he doesn't want the Lamborghini to send it down the inside. Lambo thinks better though, thinks wise, no, tries to send it anyways. Very, very optimistic move there, but not going to get side by side, not going to be able to make the position stick. So stays behind for now, and we'll need to close back in on the drivers in front. And we will go have a look at that yellow flag. I need to see what happened to Spinner here. I believe this is Spinner. No, this is Webby. Sorry. Spinner is another 757 Motorsport driver, I do believe. And just a drop of grip for the Audi on the exit of that corner. A very strange drop of grip for the Audi. Usually it stays a little bit more planted in high speeds like that. Maybe running a little bit too low on the wing. Because it really should have the stability to make that corner just fine. But who knows? The race does calm down a little bit. I will join some of the drivers. We'll see what they have to say about the current standings in the race. I do know at least Andrew Taggart is in one of the calls, so he will be available to speak, hopefully. And we can join the 757 cars as well to hear from them. But right now, we don't have to think about hearing from anyone, as Andrew Taggart is now thoroughly in the fight with Max and Linus. This fight for this podium position has not ended yet, and it will not end anytime soon. All four drivers on your screen are fighting for position. All four could take this position, and all of them are running very, very close for lap time. So really, really on the limit driving from all of these drivers, and some great fighting. Be it probably my least favorite camera angle in the entire game. Just going through the cars. And Linus has closed that gap significantly. Will it be a good run for the McLaren, though? It absolutely will be a good run for the McLaren, who just about keeps the speed he needs to keep the Lamborghini from passing him down into T1. Will it be a good launch out of the first corner? It absolutely will be a good launch out of the first corner. So Andrew Taggart doing well to keep the Lamborghini behind. Lamborghini very quick in a straight line, which is quite surprising to me, considering it's usually one of the slower cars on the straight, given can't really adjust the wing very much and very late under the brakes. Linus nearly clatters into the back of Andrew Taggart here. Andrew Taggart just about keeping his bumper clean. Will be having a little bit of flashbacks to what happened to Ivanov when Ivanov had been behind him. A similar situation here, except now he's stuck behind the McLaren, and well, he's not in a Lamborghini. But I believe Andrew Taggart will be fighting quite hard to get back into P3 and chase down Ivanov for his P2. Every position he has lost is a big loss for him, considering he started P1. He started right at the front of the grid. He was ahead of Nico. And now, Nico is 40 seconds down the road from P2. Cruising home to what should be a quite easy victory. if Usabi is watching the stream. Can't say that your... well, I already know what your prediction was, and it's Nico finishing the race, lapping the whole field, and we might see that today with the pace that Nico has, showing exactly why he deserves to win the championship, exactly why he deserves to hold the title. And I can't say I'm surprised. Nico is one of the best drivers to have ever touched Phoenix SimSport. Very, very late for Linus. Just about manages to avoid crashing into the back of Andrew Taggart. Again, there must have been inches there. Inches between the two drivers. And now Ozdir wants to have less than inches between him and P5. And right now, it's looking very, very close to being Linus losing this position. Two mistakes in a row, two big mistakes in a row that nearly cost him not just a position, but potentially a penalty as well, because crashing into the back of your current race rival is absolutely a way to get yourself a penalty. For notes on Nico's position right now, Nico has just lapped part of the field. He will be lapping another part of the field very shortly. So, I believe the objective for him today is to lap P2. Would be an amazing drive from him. As we encounter our first blue flags of the day. No longer is every driver on your screen an available position. But now they are yet again. And race has not calmed down enough for us to do anything fun yet. Still just keeping an eye on this fight. This is the fight for P3. It goes down all the way to P6, so you could potentially lose 3 positions in a row with this one battle. All depending on how much the concertina effect plays into it. Taggart right on the bumper of Glanville. Just trying to close that gap a little bit. Tires will start to feel a little bit more worn now. This is where the McLaren starts to come into a world of its own compared to some of the other cars that don't do so well on the worn set of tires. McLaren is a personal favorite of mine for that reason. You can drive essentially as aggressive as you want, and the car will just continue as it were. Linus closing in on the back of Andrew Taggart now, so Andrew will need to start worrying a little bit. And a bad run for the McLaren driver has him side by side with Linus down through turn 2, down towards turn 3. Side by side, outside line for the McLaren driver. Heavy braking for the pair of them. Will it be Andrew Taggart forced wide again? It will be Andrew Taggart forced wide again, but this time he gets the launch he needs right on the bumper of the Lamborghini. Will he make the move down into turn 4? It doesn't look like he's close enough to make the move into turn 4, so dropping back down a position. Now Ozdir looking to take advantage of the squabble in front. Tries to send a move around the outside, very nearly manages it, and it's a good line for the... I was gonna say it's a good line for the Aston Martin, but it's not quite the line that he needed. So Andrew Taggart losing a position, Linus moving up into P4. That's that Phoenix SimSport driver, really feeling the pressure now. Linus making a mistake will lose the position to Andrew Taggart, so a little boon for the McLaren, who no longer has to worry about where he's going to make that move, but now he has to think about how he's going to defend this move, as a much better line for the Lamborghini yet again. And that really is Andrew Taggart's struggling corner. He needs to defend the inside here as well. He's leaving that door open, and it really just invites Linus to send it down the inside. Thankfully, Andrew Taggart stays safe for just a little bit, but now Linus is going to go side by side, inside line, down into turn 3, and I don't see any way Andrew Taggart defends this. He's just struggling so much against the Lamborghini braking. And Linus sends it yet again down the inside. A little bit of contact, a little bit of rubbing. That will be a contact between him and Ozdir. So while the two in front were slowed down, Ozdir didn't quite account for it and crashed into the back of Linus now. Linus getting spun round will lose a good 5 seconds to Andrew Taggart. Now you can ignore the sheet on the side of the screen. It is inaccurately displaying position, just a little bit of a checkpoint issue with the game. Nico is still in P1. Bean did not overtake him and is not pulling a second-to-second to the current championship lead. And there are positions set properly. I'd be quite impressed if a driver could instantly gain a lap and then pull a second per second to his to the driver behind, but unfortunately is not possible without some sort of cheats or the other driver driving incredibly slow. I think you might need to be stationary for that. Not actually sure. So much has happened this race. It's finally calmed down a little bit. We might go join the drivers and see what is up. Hello, hello.
Hello.
You are on stream. It has opened up just a little bit. How has the battles been so far for you? I know you've been up and down.
Wow. Yeah, it's been really, really spicy out there today. Some really good pace from drivers behind me. So definitely it's been a bit of a defensive drive here today. It's looking like it's maybe swinging back the other way now that the tire wear's setting in. But whew, it's going to be a spicy afternoon.
And Webby, you had a pretty big incident there. What happened? We just saw the Audi just dropped it.
Yeah, being the Audi, just the tyre wear just within one lap made a big difference. So the throttle inputs are just not as they were. So yeah, that's it. Just made a small error that turned into a big error.
Yeah, I would have thought that the Audi'd stay planted there. It's such a strange incident.
The tyre wear's awful in this car. Like half an hour is enough.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, but fighting back, got good lap times in, so hopefully should get back up to the top two.
Yeah, you're right on the back of Linus. Linus just had an incident as well. So potential damage for him could turn into advantage for you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Alright, I'll leave you to it. Good luck.
Thank you. Enjoy the race, everyone.
And we're hearing it from the drivers themselves there. Yeah, Andrew Taggart dealing with quite a lot of issues with the other drivers who just have immense pace today. Thankfully, it sounds like his luck is turning around. He's found a little bit of pace in the second half of the stint. That's what we're talking about with the McLaren. You will find that pace in the second half compared to the other drivers. And now he can focus on closing that gap and re-overtaking the drivers that had passed him prior. Heard it from Webby as well. I think a setup quite accounts for the tire wear you'll see at a track like Red Bull Ring. Audi really should last, but if you run it too aggressive, which you really do have to run the Audi aggressive, it will eat through those tires. And once the tires are gone, it's gone. Yeah, tire degradation is high at Red Bull Ring, Nico says in the chat. Currently leading the race by 47 seconds, so not that much. I believe it's far enough that our deltas are not actually accurate, so it could actually be a little bit more than 47 seconds. But yeah, just reminding Nico, make sure you drive with your hands on the wheel. Ideally, you don't have your keyboard attached to your wheelbase as a driving implement, but I'm sure someone could make that. I'm sure someone's done that. Hey, maybe Nico just has the buttons bound on his wheel to different buttons on the keyboard. Yeah, I can't say I've ever had issues with the Audi losing pace throughout the race. Every time I've driven the Audi, it's stayed quite consistent. It's just consistently snappy. It never really goes from grippy to not grippy. It just stays not grippy. But it's quick not grippy, so you sort of just have to deal with it. I wonder if maybe then the setup could be too safe for Webby. Too safe a setup, and you're going to burn through your tires quicker than if you're using an aggressive setup. You tend to use positive toe. Positive toe really, really eats through the tires. Ideally, for tire wear, you keep it negative or slightly closer to 0. That'll keep the tires in their best possible condition. Same with camber. But of course, in Assetto Corsa Competizione, camber really just has to be set almost full negative, just given how the game physics work right now. Hopefully we'll see a change to that come AC Evo, but that is a long time coming. We'll be here for ACC all the while. Andrew Taggart has closed the gap to Max in front. This is the fight for P3, and now Max on the defensive, no longer fighting for a position, but instead fighting to hold on to a position. He will now have to do the reverse of what he did in the opening parts of the stint, and he will need to fight tooth and nail to keep this position away from his rivals. Of course, Max did come from P7 all the way to P3. So no matter really what he does now, it is a net gain for him, even if he loses the position to Taggart. So, all to play for the McLaren drivers. And they will certainly fight it out hard as they can. We are nearly an hour through the race, nearly to the pit stops. This is where it really becomes critical for the drivers to get these good laps in, keep the tires in one piece. If you've worn out your tires already, you're going to have to make such an early pit stop, and well, now you're on our 10-minute tires for your next stint. Ideally, you spend the first stint going as far as you can, use the tires as much as physically possible. Go all the way until there's no fuel left in your tank, and then you pit. And you spend the entire second half of the race with much fresher tires, much higher grip, much faster lap times than your opponents. Catch up, pass them, and continue the process all the way through the field. But of course, there's different strategies that drivers could choose, different strategies that drivers could opt for as well. It's not always a situation of just going for whatever is quickest overall, because quickest overall is ideally pitting at the halfway mark, exactly on the halfway mark, and then just cruising home to a nice, simple finish. But the pace is never going to stay that consistent, the battles are never going to stay that consistent, and your opponents are never going to be so predictable. So choosing when you pit is an important skill. You don't do it, and you end up at the back of the grid, no matter how quick you are. Granted, statement has a caveat of if you're 50 seconds down the road like Nico, I don't think it matters when you pit. Nico might have a gap now to pit and come out in front of the field without losing a position. And considering you lose nearly a minute pitting here at Red Bull Ring, it's a pretty good gap. I think you're pretty safe if you do that. Speaking of, I didn't set the mandatory pit stops on my sheet, so no one's been able to see what the pit stops are. But now everyone can see what the pit stops are. Andrew Taggart running wide behind Max. That will lose him time to the unpainted McLaren, and drops back beyond the 1 second range that he had just prior. He will need to close that gap if he wants to get back into P3 and chase down Ivanov for P2. That is really what what Andrew Taggart needs to do here is close that gap to Ivanov and take back P2 away from his race rival. Not sure it's a championship rivalry. I don't know how close they are in terms of the championship. We were talking about Ivanov needed a good result here in order to take the position away from... Let me have a look at the standings. If Ivanov wanted to take the position away from Rufo, he needed... He needs exactly 100 points. So Ivanov needs to win the race to take the position away from Rufo. Right now, it is maybe possible. It's a little desperate, if you ask me. It would sort of need Nico to not finish this race, and I don't think Nico has much opportunity to not finish this race. A big mistake for Andrew Taggart yet again. Same mistake, same corner as last lap. So not learning his lesson now. Ozdir taking advantage of this lesson not being learned to learn his own lesson. And that is, he can make an overtake there if he really wants to. Aston Martin now will have a little bit of determination to keep close for as long as possible. To fight as hard as he can for this position. Knows there is opportunities. And those opportunities have presented themselves. Side by side down the main straight. Andrew Taggart just afraid to get over and defend early enough. Will hold the outside line for turn 1, but it's not going to be enough. Ozdir makes the move. Inside line down the second straightaway. Better line for Andrew Taggart out of the corner. Holds the speed, but the Aston Martin has that inside line. I think that inside line is what's most important down into turn 3. Heavier braking for the Aston Martin will take him in front just temporarily. Andrew Taggart with the better run out of the corner will pass Ozdir and hold his position, at least for now. Ozdir dropping back and losing a lot of pace compared to the McLaren. That will cost him in his chase down of Max, because he's lost over a second of lap time in just this few quarters. All it takes is just a couple of corners and you really lose the time going side by side. The fight is still close here. P7 all the way to P4, separated by only a couple of seconds. All the cars you see on your screen, bar for the orange car giving way now, are for position. So they can all fight and all take points away from each other. Nearly an hour into this race. It's been a long race so far. It started to slow down only a little bit. Andrew Taggart is not out of the woods yet. I think he's had the most action-packed race of anyone on the grid so far. I'm not sure it's the action-packed race he would have liked. Dropping back of the order so quickly, so significantly, cannot feel good. It cannot be a nice feeling to lose so many places in such a time frame. Ozdir just about leaves space for the McLaren as the McLaren runs wide, side by side between the pair of them. Andrew Taggart on that outside line will now need to worry about his line into turn 4. Heavy braking for the McLaren, heavy braking for the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin on that inside line will try to hold it there. Andrew Taggart holds it around the outside, but is shown the gravel and backs out of the move. Stays behind, stays close behind, but no space for him to make the move down into what was, I want to say turn 6, and now into turn 7. Andrew Taggart will need to fight back and fight hard if he wants to get back into P4. Especially before Linus catches up, because Linus catching up means that now he'd be in a position where he has to defend and attack at the same time. And we've seen how that has gone already this race. It's not gone well for the drivers who have attempted it. Usually you end up losing a position or two. And now Linus is thoroughly on the bumper of Andrew Taggart. What was a nice safety window is no longer a safety window at all. In fact, Andrew Taggart has fallen back of Oster as well, so that gives rise to so much more confidence for Linus. It is bumper to bumper going down into turn 3. Will Linus make the dive? Will Andrew Taggart stay in front? Right now, Andrew Taggart is staying in front very, very wide on corner entry for the Lamborghini driver. I think just about keeping it within track limits. Those track limits extend quite far beyond the white lines here in ACC. And Andrew Taggart is closing in on Oster as well, so picking up the pace. The McLaren driver is finding the bumper of the Aston Martin yet again, and now the slipstream will certainly pull him along and help him in his fight against Linus behind. No longer does Linus just have the slipstream, while Andrew Taggart has to deal with the full brunt of the error in front. Now he's got a little bit of a wall in front in form of an Aston Martin. And through turn 7 and through 8, they go down into the final sector yet again. This is Andrew Taggart's struggling sector, so we'll see if he can manage to keep it together, or if he will lose out to the driver in front and the driver behind yet again. And it's another poor exit for the McLaren, who's now under threat from Linus going down into T1. Loses a bunch of time to Oster as well. It's that one corner that's costing him so much in this Grand Prix. Into the pits goes Zach Webby, one of the first to pit in that top 10 group. Lots of drivers will temporarily gain the position. This is where we hit the pit stop shuffle. Drivers will be reorganized a little bit. Ugh. Sorry. Drivers will be a little bit reorganized here. Positions are not official until everyone has pitted. Drivers with an orange number next to their name have one pit stop left to do. They will be required to come into the pits at least one more time before the end of the race. Drivers with green next to their name do not have to pit again. They have served their pit stop, which also means they've lost a lot of time serving those pit stops. You lose, give or take, 50 to 60 seconds in the pits, which does mean that drivers will be 50 seconds behind their position on track until the other drivers pit. This does mean that you could get some nice clean air by pitting nice and early. You could pit early, end up behind your opponent temporarily, and just keep up the pace faster than they can manage, and by the time they pit, you'll have gained a lot of lap time to them. Same with an overcut, where you wait and you pit later. As long as you can hold on to a little bit of pace, you shouldn't lose too much track time. And then you have much better tires later into the race, so you can make the move on track. So it really depends what strategy these drivers want to do. Right now, it's looking like they want to go just a little bit longer than otherwise necessary. Linus will be looking to go just a little bit deeper on the brakes than Andrew Taggart and take this position. It's not looking like the opportunity has opened up just yet, but he is right there behind the McLaren. It's not really going to close at all before the pit stops, so it's going to be a fight all the way through turn 4 they go. Andrew Taggart running wide, clipping the gravel on the outside of the corner. Will slow him down a little bit. Will dirty his tires through this next series of corners. That'll slow him down even more than just the clip of the gravel might have. And it is thoroughly Linus stuck on the bumper of Andrew Taggart here. Not a whole lot the McLaren can do to shake him. And that is the Lambo into the pit lane. So Linus will be serving his pit stop, trying to get the overcut, or sorry, the undercut rather, on Andrew Taggart. And Andrew Taggart will now need to think about a defensive pit stop. Defensive pit stop just means as soon as your opponent's in the pits, you pit the lap after them. They'll have a nice slow out lap because they're on fresh tires that aren't as grippy, and cold tires for the matter. Although these tires do have tire blankets, the external temperatures will be nice and warm. The core will need to be heated up a little bit more than it is as of now. If you don't do a defensive pit stop, there's a chance that your opponent can overtake you. In this case, I think the defensive pit stop is the ideal strategy. If Andrew Taggart does not pit this lap, he will lose the position to, who's it? He will lose the position to Linus, because Linus will have more pace on track. We've already seen this already throughout the race, and there will really be no way for Andrew Taggart to hold on to that position, especially considering Andrew Taggart's on worn tires. It's not all sunshine and rainbows right now for these drivers. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's a little bit dreary with the weather right now. I think there is a chance of rain. Small chance, but a chance of rain. I will have to look and see, though. It will be a full dry race, so no chance of rain. Is Andrew Taggart in the pit lane? It doesn't look like it is so. Andrew Taggart will lose this position now to who's it? To Linus. I keep forgetting which driver he's fighting with. I want to say Max, but Max has a comfortable lead right now. Bean losing a position to Webby. It's not really a position up for grabs for him, so I'm sure he just gave way and let Webby cruise on ahead. No reason to fight with a driver who has already pitted when you have not pitted, as you'll just be losing time. Ozdir flashing his lights will remind Max that he is right there. This fight is not over and Max is not safe. And now Max will have to look behind him just a little bit more as Ozdir closes in bumper to bumper, nearly pushes him out of the corner. And down into turn 5 they go. Nice sweeping section. This is where the McLaren will pull just a little bit to the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin not as good through these corners as the I believe it's a British car. I want to say the McLaren is a British manufactured car, but I could be mistaken. Neither driver pitting just yet. Both will stay on track and both will continue their fight. This could lose them time to Andrew Taggart, and in a way potentially give Andrew Taggart back his position that he's losing to Linus. I think Linus will be the driver to gain from all of this, especially if Max and Ozdir keep fighting like this. If they properly fight, especially, Linus will absolutely pass them, given the amount of time you lose fighting side by side with another driver. That is saying that Linus doesn't get held up by traffic, and right now, he's got a nice open track in front of him, so I don't think he's going to have to worry about traffic as much as I might worry about. Ozdir and Max will go side by side. Good line for Ozdir on the exit of the corner. We'll get him side by side. We'll get him the inside line down into turn 4. Max has that outside line. He will need to sweep around the outside if he wants to hold on to this position. It looks like it is a sweep around the outside from the McLaren driver, who just loses out on the position on corner exit. Ozdir slotting in front, and now Andrew Taggart, brought back into the battle, will be closing in on the two in front as they fight more and more. Ozdir holding on to the position now as Max closes in on his bumper instead. And yeah, we were talking about Linus is really going to be the driver to benefit from all of this. I believe he might find himself P3 after everyone has pitted. And I think he'll be quite happy about a P3 after the pit stops, especially considering he pitted from in P6. So that's 4 positions almost gained. That's 3 positions gained. Big amount of positions to gain, especially for something so trivial as just pitting slightly earlier than your opponent. All the orange drivers are at the front of the grid. Those are the drivers who have not pitted yet. Everyone behind has served their pit stops and will be in their finalized positions. That said, absolutely a chance for drivers to lose time if they pit too early, and these drivers that we're watching right now, they'll have the fresher tires for a lot longer. The longer they carry on these tires, the better their tires will be in comparison to their opponent's tires on that second stint. And I don't think it matters nearly as much when you pit in ACC. Competizione tends to be pretty friendly when it comes to the tires. Fuel is your biggest worry, and these drivers will start to see their tanks dwindling on fuel. I'd imagine we'll see one of them pit soon enough, perhaps even this lap. As that is Max to the inside line. He will be the first of this group to pit. No, Ozdir cuts the pit entry lines and will also dive into the pit lane. We'll see how these two get on, and it's a crash into the pit lane. That might give Ozdir a drive-through penalty for speeding that will need to be removed by the stewards, and that will be a potential penalty for Max instead. We'll keep a close eye on that, and I'll contact the stewards if needed. We see Ozdir get a penalty. I don't believe I am signed in as a steward, so I'm not able to remove penalties. But that will be needed to be cleared if that does give a penalty, as that is not the way it is supposed to be. Andrew Taggart has not pitted yet. He will need to pit soon enough. Well, we're going to keep an eye on Linus right now, because Linus is the driver who may well gain from the group in the pit lane right now. Ozdir and Glanville both fought very, very hard. Now down the main straight they go. Has Ozdir gotten moving? They have not. Now they are. We'll see if that gives a penalty on pit exit. I don't know if it will show me. But that is Linus gaining the position. So he has moved in front of Ozdir, in front of Glanville, and Webby finds himself in the middle of the battle as well. So very, very close between all of the drivers. Heavy braking for the Audi to make his move down into turn 3. Aston Martin on fresh tires will not have the grip that he needs. I will go... if Nico, if you could confirm, did the Aston Martin get a penalty or not? I do know you are here in chat. I don't think I can see it in the broadcasting booth. I might be able to. Let's see. No, it was a penalty to DuPont. I think that does not need any action taken by the stewards. We'll have a look at that incident yet again. Which car number is Max? He is number 80? We are not able to see that, so stewards will have a look at it after the race. We'll see what action needs to be taken. Linus now gains the position to Andrew Taggart. Andrew losing the position to Webby. Might even lose it to Ozdir here as well, as we get the worst camera angle of the year award to Red Bull Ring. And now Andrew Taggart loses the position to Webby, will not lose it to Ozdir. So Ozdir and Max fighting, much as they did lose the position. I'm surprised that pit entry kerfuffle didn't end in a penalty for either of them. Stewards will be taking a stern look at it. You never really want to have a collision at the pit entry line. That's about the worst spot to have a collision on any track, really. Collision on pit entry has the highest likelihood of misassigning a penalty to a different driver. It's been an action-packed race. It really has. Hardly getting a chance to breathe here. I want to take a drink of water, but Ozdir is about to make a move on Andrew Taggart here. If Andrew Taggart makes a mistake out of this final corner, which he may well. Oh, smooth line for the McLaren. We'll stay in front just for now. Ozdir looking at the bumper of that McLaren, figuring out where he can make this move. I think Andrew Taggart is enjoying his fresh set of rubber. Finally on fresh tires again, and a big slide for him out of T1, so I was going to say that, but no, doesn't look like he's enjoying it much at all. Side by side, Aston Martin on the inside, but not quite fully alongside. Andrew Taggart now could defend if he really wanted to. Heavy braking for the pair of them, and Ozdeer's going to collect Andrew Taggart, sends them spinning off the track. Max takes avoiding action, doesn't crash into him, and now Nico lapping the field, crossing past Andrew Taggart now, and Nico has served his pit stop and emerged in front of everyone else. So Nico has now lapped all the way to P7. Andrew Taggart in a world of hurt after that incident. It really isn't his fault. Ozdeer making a big mistake just a little bit too late on the brakes. And that's part of where aggressive driving can really serve you well in incidents. Is driving aggressive. If Andrew Taggart had really just chopped off the nose of the Aston Martin when he had the legal chance to, because after all, there is a time in which you are allowed to cut off another driver. That is when you haven't made your move yet. You're allowed to defend. You're fully ahead, and you've just proven that you have the overlap. He's not going to get side by side, so you're not blocking. You're fully allowed to defend that inside line. It's aggressive, sure, but is absolutely 100% within the rulebook. I think just not taking that chance, Andrew Taggart sort of inadvertently inspired the Aston Martin into making that move. No way is it Andrew Taggart's fault, but sometimes you do just need to close off the opportunities if you think that someone might accidentally go for them, or if someone might send it where they otherwise really shouldn't be sending it. Nico will have his gap opened up again, as now Ivanov, the last driver into the pit lane, will serve his pit stop and be done and over with it. That'll be the last pit stop of the day, unless there is a driver pitting for damage. And that does mean that now all positions are finalized. The only way a position will change is if a driver passes another driver. There's no more passing in the pit lane. Now that is Nico passing at P6, so he'll have lapped the majority of the field after this. Right now he's lapped half the field. Exactly half the field, I do believe. Now it will be the majority, as Ozdeer will have to give way. It's not quite the space to give way, and I don't think Nico is going to be in a rush to pass, so stewards will be a little bit more lenient on an incident like this, and that is the safest, soonest opportunity for the Aston Martin to let him by. Great communication between the drivers there, and Nico will go on to cruise through the rest of his few laps. 47 minutes left on the clock. We're more than halfway through this race. It's been amazing so far. So much has happened, and we've seen so many drivers up and down the grid. I think the highlight for me today, the highlight driver is really a hard tell. I think Webby probably has to be the highlight, though, given his starting position so low on the grid and moving so far up on the grid. 10 positions gained from an original starting position of P14. My word, what a drive from the Audi driver. And it's not over yet. He's right here behind Linus. He could absolutely take P3 away. And considering he's already had a spin this race, Webby's done an amazing job to get himself where he is right now. Podium position from last on the grid, never something to complain about. Even P4 is never something to complain about, especially starting so far back, but I'm sure Webby wants to go for a little bit more. He's right there. It is so enticing, and he's got 45 minutes to make the move. That's so much time. And considering Linus could get a penalty here, after all, Linus has been involved in a lot of different incidents, and I think maybe one or two of them have been his fault. So there's a good chance that Webby might not need to make the overtake on track. That said, getting the overtake done on track is the most fun way to do it, and you always feel a little bit better when you make the move with all four wheels ahead, rather than just a timing calculation ahead. It's a little bit more rewarding being actually ahead rather than being just given the position, I suppose is a better way to put it. 0.2 of a second separate them right now, and that is all to play for Webby. Linus on the defensive will need to watch his mirrors a little bit more. Webby will be able to manipulate his car in a way that plays around with those mirrors. Mind games are, of course, one of my favorite parts of racing. I think the mind games are what makes and breaks the difference between a good driver and a great driver is really down to the mind games. If you don't play mind games with your opponent, you're missing out on a huge amount of potential for, honestly, quite free overtakes. If you have a driver behind you who's just not doing anything, they're sort of passive, you're going to feel a lot safer than if you have a driver who's sort of sticking their nose side by side, they're braking later than you, they might be bump drafting you down the straightaways to show that they're faster than you. Doing things in a way that makes you really feel like, this guy really doesn't like me. I suppose is the best way to put it. You gotta make your opponent uncomfortable, or they're never going to make a mistake. If they're comfortable with you behind them, it's not going to work in your favor. That said, doesn't look like Webby is playing many of those mind games. I think he's just focused on keeping his own car in one piece, which is also part of the puzzle. In a race this long, you can't always play mind games. Mind games will inadvertently put you in positions where you could make a mistake. You can do things a little bit poor and potentially cause an accident. So you have to know what you're doing if you really want to do those mind games. And with a 2-hour-long race, sorry, it's not always worthwhile. Sometimes it's best to just flash the headlights, stick your nose. Not even stick your nose, just move to the inside occasionally, let them see you in their mirrors. At least make sure that they know you're there. A headlight button is probably, to me, the easiest part of anything that you could do. Having the headlights will just make you a little bit more noticeable. Flashing light is always going to be more noticeable. It's why emergency vehicles use them. That's why racing cars have a button dedicated to flashing the headlights. I believe that is Nico behind. So we might see Nico lapping at P4 and P3. That could play impact into this fight as well. After all, there is a lot of calculation you have to do in order to let a driver past. I think Webby is in the perfect position to take advantage of the fact that Nico is lapping both of them. I race a lot of GT4s. I personally enjoy multi-class racing. I love figuring out ways to give way in a way that makes my opponent you sort of want to force your opponent to give way to you. So you have to stay right with the guy who passed you. So here, if Webby stays right on Nico's bumper, he will then be able to take advantage of the fact that Nico is going to be given a free pass by Linus. That means Linus is going to lose time slowing down to let Nico by. And if Nico doesn't run away from Webby, if Webby's right here on his bumper, say like 0.4, 0.3 of a second, you're not going to be able to give way to just Nico. You're going to accidentally give way to your opponent. Right now, not looking like that is so. Webby has dropped back off quite a bit, actually. And Linus has been given his blue flag, so we will need to give way on this straightaway. Stewards do take into account drivers who are fighting, so Linus does have just a little bit of extra time here to give way before it's an actual penalty. Still not advised to push it, but that is probably the best way he can give way right there. He loses no time to Webby. They're going to go side by side. Nico is going to fight a little bit here with Linus, but I think that's okay. Linus has the outside line. He's going to brake earlier. He's not going to fight this position, and he holds on to that position. So that's about as good as it could be for the Lamborghini driver there. That's a textbook giving way without giving way to your opponent situation. So Webby, unfortunately, not going to make the move that way. And nice smart driving from Linus. And just 40 minutes of racing. We are on the final home stretch. 1/3 of racing left to go. We're 2/3 of the way through, and we're nearly at the quarter marker, and that will be really where I expect some things to start to kick off. There's still 3 battles going on track. That's Webby, Linus, Osdir, Andrew Taggart, and Dennis Flynn. So 3 different fights going on right now. All of them have spread out a little bit, besides for the Webby Linus fight. But they could close back in, especially as tires get worn, especially as things settle down. Because keep in mind, drivers have pitted at different times. Andrew Taggart was one of the later pitters, so he will have a lot of speed in the latter half, so will Osdir. And I believe Flynn was one of the earlier pitters, so he'll lose some time to Dennis. Webby tried to make the move, just runs way wide of the corner. Thankfully, Linus accounted for it, took avoiding action. I think Linus is driving a little bit more situationally aware than he had been earlier in the race, and it's paying dividends for his pace overall. It is hard just to keep aware for such a long time. You sort of pace yourself at the beginning, realize you have more energy at the halfway marker, so you end up pushing a little bit more, and you're like, oh, I overdid it a little bit. I should have paced myself more. And then that latter half of the race really is a real struggle here in endurance racing. It's a struggle for my voice right now. My throat is absolutely killing me. I'm going to have another drink of water, but I don't know that that will really help. It's been very, very action-packed today, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon, so I do need to get myself a little bit prepared. So sorry if I talk a little bit less in the next 20 or so minutes. I do enjoy being able to continue commentating. Wouldn't like to ruin my voice. I'm not sure who's taking over for me next season, because I know I'm not commentating next season. Someone else will be commentating next season, so I wish whoever that is the best of luck. It's not as hard as it looks. Just takes a lot of practice and a lot of game knowledge. Because after all, knowing the drivers, knowing the cars, knowing the game goes a long way in making commentating much easier. You can see what strats people are going for, you can see what works and what doesn't, where people are losing time, paying a lot more attention to where you can make overtakes, things like that. So I think I have an advantage over someone who doesn't know ACC trying to commentate, compared to myself, who I would presume I know a lot about ACC, but maybe I don't. There is the the Dunning-Kruger effect, where the more you think you know, the less you really do know. So, maybe I don't know as much as I think, but I feel fairly confident that I know a good amount, and enough to commentate. I hope everyone is doing well in the chat. I know it's slowed down just a little bit, but we are all still here. It has been a exciting race so far. I don't know how to do polls on Twitch. I know there's a way to do polls, but I don't know how to. So if everyone wants to, just put your driver of the day in the Twitch chat. I'd love to hear what drivers or what spectators think who the driver of the day is. I will also recap. Nico has made it 75 seconds in the lead right now. An absolutely astronomical lead over the rest of the field. He's almost lapped the entire field. He just has to lap Ivanov. So Ivanov is holding on for dear life, trying to be the only driver who doesn't get lapped today, aside for the driver doing the lapping, of course. Otherwise, Nico will be the only driver who did not lap, or who did not get lapped today, as he's well, in P1. You can't really lap P1 without having passed P1. Then in that case, you'd be P1. Dennis has closed in on the back of Flynn here. I wonder if that was just maybe a small mistake from the BMW driver. Down the back straight through turn 2, down into turn 3 we go. Heavy braking for the pair of drivers. And drivers who are on brake pads 1 might start to see some struggles now. This is about the time you'll start to see a lack of performance from brake pads 1. It'll last until the end of the race, easily. It'll go, I think, 2.5 hours to maybe 3 hours. But you're going to wear down on the brakes significantly more. You're going to slow down. Joe Viper with a yellow flag in front will lose the position to Flynn and Dennis. Interesting incident there. I'm not sure what happened. We'll have a look at it in the replay. So down into... what was this? Down into turn 3? No, turn 4. That was a strange incident. The BMW just drops it there. That not usual behavior you'd expect from a BMW. But that does allow both Dennis and Flynn to pass on by with no issue at all. And now Dennis and Flynn are in a nice little fight here, with Oliver Flynn in the lead. Don't expect this battle to end anytime soon, but it does look like Dennis has dropped off a little bit, so maybe making a mistake there for the McLaren. It's an unusual amount of time loss, especially halfway through a stint. Usually the McLaren's quite quick halfway through a stint. The BMW tends to just be a little bit more consistent, though, and that could play impact here. That's why I'm so surprised to see Joe Viper spin off as he did. I'm seeing Webby for drive of the day from Nico. I would absolutely agree with that. I think I already said that would be my driver of the day vote. Going from last place all the way to P4, now fighting for P3 is no easy feat. Webby's doing a great job of it, especially in a car like the Audi, especially something he's already shown isn't the most planted car on the grid. It did have a spin, and he did have a good shunt with the barrier. But he has continued to go, and he has recovered. And it's a recovery that has done him well. And down the main straight for Dennis and Oliver yet again. No closer, no farther than they were only a lap prior. I might have a co-commentator joining me for the final 30 minutes, sorry, not final 3 minutes. Maybe a little bit late on the final 3 minutes. Suppose I would not argue, though. 3 minutes is still 3 minutes, and a lot can happen in 3 minutes. Sure, the drivers will demonstrate as such here in just a minute. Dennis bumper to bumper with Oliver Flynn now. That gap has closed in significantly during the short time I looked away from the screen. Now into the final sector they go. This is where both cars are quite strong. Webby has closed in on the back of Linus in P4. So confused for a second. I thought I was seeing something. No, but we did have a driver retire. I believe that was we have lost a driver. Max loses the position to Andrew Taggart. I think that was a mistake or something. I entirely missed what happened there. So we'll go back on the replay and just have a look and ensure we're not missing anything. Because Andrew Taggart was behind, right on the bumper of Max by 0.2, maybe 0.1 of a second here. And Max just runs wide out onto the gravel, and that is where he lost the position to Andrew Taggart. So Andrew Taggart finally making his way forward. No longer losing the positions, but instead taking them away. But he needs to gain 4 seconds to the driver in front, to Webby, in order to get himself back into P4 and then fight with Linus for P3. So it's a long way to go for the pole position driver, or our pole sitter for this race. Definitely a fall from grace for him from where he should have been. Webby's still right here with Linus as well, P3 and P4 respectively. Pit window is now closed, so drivers will no longer be allowed to pit for tires and fuel. If they come into the pit lane, it will be strictly for repairs. I believe that is potentially an issue with the server. I think we set it up for an hour-long race, but it works out fine anyways. Don't think drivers were all too upset about the pit window. Can't imagine they'd be too upset about the pit window. You're only ever going to pit within that hour 30-minute mark anyways. No one's going to go longer than an hour 30. Sure, they could try, but you're not gonna gain anything to other drivers by doing that. There's a mandatory pit stop for a reason. Max right on the bumper of Andrew Taggart here down the main straight. And down into turn 3, no moves from the drivers just yet, but the battles have kicked off yet again, closing in quite significantly. And still just a second separating Max from Andrew and a second separating Webby from Linus. Two very, very close battles that we'll see carry out until the end of this race. 26 minutes left to go. Not a whole lot of time left on the clock now. Now it's a little down to the wire. It's a little bit more desperate for these drivers. This is where you're going to start to see some moves that you wouldn't have seen early on in the race. Just given there's been so much time for the drivers to make mistakes, for the drivers to open the gaps, and now that they haven't opened, that's where drivers start to realize that it's really going to take something fierce to get by their opponent. That said, my voice is just barely holding out, so I am trying to commentate a little bit less. I will have a co-commentator here. Apologies if you hear my dog in the background. They are being quite noisy right now. Currently stands, Webby is the driver of the day, at least according to me and Nico. I don't think anyone would disagree with that given the performance we've seen so far. Hope the audio balancing is fine on the stream as well. I didn't actually check it before the race. I did mess with my settings in between events. Just getting everything to sound better for some other recordings. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. If I did, that would be unfortunate. On board with Webby right now, just chasing down the car in front. You can see how small that gap really is, and it's even smaller when you're honed in and focused on the car in front. We have a nice wide field of view from this camera angle, so we don't have nearly as much to worry about compared to Webby. We can see a lot more on track as well, whereas Webby will see more of the car in front. Not a lot of space separating them. Only a full second. And I say only. It's been a full second for quite a while now. It's a very, very long race, and it's nearly come to a close. Just 25 minutes left on the clock. Time is dwindling. Not really as many opportunities now. Those opportunities start to end at about this point. You really have to start to force your own overtake, unless you want to stay behind for the entire duration of the race. It can be fun to stay behind, but I don't think Webby is keen on it. I don't think Linus is keen on it either. Can't imagine any driver involved wants to be behind their opponent for an extended period of time. .8 of a second, so that gap is slowly closing. It's not a whole lot of closing, but it is slowly closing nonetheless. Now it is closed quite a bit more, as I think maybe Linus making a little bit of a mistake. The Audi has picked up the pace, and the gap has shrunk down. It's opened up just a little bit on corner exit, so Lamborghini quicker there, quicker on the traction zone than the Audi, but the Audi much quicker entering the corners, and that could be an opportunity for him to make a move. Quicker into the corners is always a good thing for making overtakes. Does mean that you don't necessarily have as much straight line speed, and that can play a much bigger impact into the overtakes than simply being faster through the corners. Be as fast as you want through the corners, but not having the speed on the straight to keep up does mean that you will lose out. Sorry, I had to look at something real quick. Yeah, the gap just hasn't closed in. Might be so much quicker through the middle sector, and then it just loses it through the final. Quite unfortunate, because he's right there. It's so close to being the move, but it's not quite. I do find it funny. The Halloween liveries have found their way to being the most seen on the track today. Where do I see the time spent with the camera? Sure, I'm not sure I can. I don't think I can, so it's unfortunate. Yeah, Webby being driver of the day would absolutely make sense. It's been an amazing drive from the Audi driver. Only a single mistake so far through the entire 2 hours. He's moved his way from P14 all the way to P4. Can't really do any better than that, I don't think. But maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe you can do better than that. I don't know. It's certainly the best effort Webby could put in, and certainly an effort that will not go underappreciated. And that's going to be great for 757 in the team championship. Because keep in mind, this is the fight for the team championship right now. Not sure who... Oh, what was the team name? I really don't pay attention to the team nearly as much. Papaya Rules, which is, I think, Mallow and... driver who is not present on track? But I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, it is Mallow. And another driver. It's Dennis? No, not Dennis. Who's it? It is Dennis, okay. So this could be the team championship changing then. I'm not entirely sure, because Spinner, you're not on track today. And it is double points, so even more important to have been on track to get those points. Might play some big impacts into that championship. Dealing with some lapped cars now, the pair of drivers. Linus still under threat from Webby behind, but no positions have exchanged. Are you on track? You're not on track, are you? I have not seen you on track. Ah, that's unfortunate. Yeah, that I hear you there. The moment this race finishes, I have to go do a little bit of work, and then I'm back for helping the stewards with the penalties. I don't think there's been that many penalties, to be fair. It's been a relatively calm race. Like even on my penalty sheet, like locally here, and it marks yellow flags as well, which is no incident for the stewards to review. I've not seen a whole lot. It's only, I can't even scroll to see. So, it's been a relatively calm race. All the incidents I've witnessed here in the commentary booth have been very clear-cut as well. They won't take very much time to evaluate. So I think stewards will be quite happy by the end of this race. Drivers will as well. I know drivers don't enjoy when we take forever to do the penalties. And they won't have to worry about us taking forever to do penalties. Bean and Dennis are going to go toe-to-toe here in the final closing stages of the race. Heavy braking from Dennis, making his way past Bean, but Bean will pass him again on corner exit. McLaren overcooking it and losing the position yet again. So position gained, position lost, and nothing really exchanged between the pair of them. Besides for a little bit of awareness from the Bentley and a little bit of overcommitment from the McLaren. Yeah, there was a few shunts, but honestly, it's almost not a penalty for some of them. There was a few spins. We did witness a few spins on stream. But those few spins were far and few between, and I think they'll be pretty cut and clear. It's the ones where it's really on the limit that take the longest. Especially as we get bigger teams for those incidents. Takes a while to discuss with 6 to 7 people. Hello, Darkness. Welcome. We're finally here.
I have made it. How was the race?
Oh, it's been action-packed so far. We're like finally in a little bit of downtime for the first time this race.
Nico lapped the whole field.
Nico has almost lapped the whole field. Oh no, he has lapped the whole field. He has just lapped the whole field because he has passed Ivanov. So that is Nico passing all of the drivers on track today, and well, showing exactly why he deserves to win the championship, and it will be the title going to Nico. No one can take that from him. That is official now. So we'll celebrate with him after the race. We'll hopefully get an interview from him. He can hear us on stream right now. So do check in with us, Nico, after the race for the interview.
I saw Jakob and a few others saying Webby for driver of the day. What has Webby done to deserve this?
Webby has gone from P14 all the way to P4 on the grid. Technically, it was a little bit higher. I think he was P2 at peak, but had an unfortunate incident. Went down to P7 and is now back in P4. Was just fighting Linus for P3, but didn't manage to grab it quite yet. 3.1 behind his rival right now.
in the Audi as well. I know he's been dying to get back into it. This was his season to come back in the Audi. For him to come back and gain 10 places in this season finale, that's yeah, I agree. Driver of the day has to be him.
And yeah, it's also going to play impact into the team battle. I can't do the calculations in my head right now, but Webby is P4, so double points today is going to be really good impact in the team championship. They are a little bit trailing behind DuPont and Dennis right now, but Dennis and DuPont are both at the back of the grid right now, so they're going to score a lot less points than Webby is. So Webby could be the deciding factor for 757 Motorsports having the 1-2 team championship.
I think they will. They are 91 points, 131 points, and with double points for the season finale. Oliver and Viper, just 9th and 11th. I think your
No,
Max
not
is
not
spot
Oliver
on.
and Viper. Webby and Spinner.
No. You're spot on to say it'll be a 757 1-2, but it'll be the Audi Customer Racing in P1 and the Motorsport Team BMW in P2. 757 running 2 teams in our World Challenge, and both teams are going to be at the top of that team standings at the end of this round, I believe.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is I'm not actually sure. Spinner's not here on track today, and Webby is P4 right now. Don't know if Dennis getting this position here against Bean will matter much in the team championship. I don't have the calculations in front of me, but it being 2 drivers against 1 might play the difference. I'm not sure. I have to do the calculations, and I don't have a piece of paper in front of me.
I don't trust myself with maths, not this evening. We'll have to wait for the.
I can do it, but
calculations to come
I
through.
want a paper for it if I'm going to be accurate, and I have so much data in front of me that I can't really do calculations without overwhelming myself. Webby has closed back in on Linus, 1.5 seconds gained, now 1.5 seconds gap from what was a 3-second gap. 13 minutes of racing left, not a whole lot of time. 71 laps completed from the lead driver, 70 laps for Ivanov and 69 for everyone else. A little bit less at the back of the grid, but everyone will get at least 70 laps in for this race. That's a great question, Spinner. That is why I have not done the math, because I don't remember what the positions are worth.
There it is.
P1, 50.
P4 will score 35 in a regular race, so in double points, it'll be 70 points for Mr.
And
Webby.
how much is P10 and P13 worth?
P10 with double points 32, and P11 is
13. P13.
P13, sorry. P13 is 10 points, so 20 points doubled. And P10 is 16 points, so 32 points doubled.
So that is Webby taking home the win for his team.
Incredible drive. Holy.
That is 757 Motorsports winning the team championship with 2 different teams. They are one of the longest standing teams on the grid, I think. Maybe second to the Italian Stallions and Team Rocket? I'm not sure when 757 might be older than Italian Stallions and Team Rocket. I'm not actually sure. I know they've completed more races than us.
Team Rocket's first. Yeah, Team Rocket's first.
Was Team Rocket the first team?
Well, it's currently... Well, it was the longest standing team till, I'm guessing, you guys all retired.
No, we're still racing as teammates. We're just we're racing in the F1 cars now.
Oh, okay. I think it goes Team Rocket, then Italian Stallions, then 757. Even with FS Racing in the mix, I think they will still come third in the longest standing teams.
It has been what, a year and a half? Longer?
Since
When did
what?
we first form the teams? I could probably check my messages with James to see. Just keep an eye on the race for me. Make sure I'm not like missing anything critical here.
Jake, with the team going your team's way, I think it's time you hit the dirt next season for WRC and get that championship. As far as I'm aware, the last time you messaged in the Discord, you were very close to winning that championship. Unfortunately, a very small driving mistake costed you the win, I believe.
Oh my goodness. Alright,
Solid, right
I
effort.
can now confirm the first Team Rocket logo was made in January of 2023.
Oh. Yeah,
But
Team Rocket's then definitely older than...
We have
757.
driven with the Team Rocket livery for... since 2022.
You are
My word.
looking at the right battle.
Side by side between Dennis and Bean there. I nearly missed out on that. Dennis down the inside of Bean, taking the position away from the Bentley driver. Down into the final sector yet again. This is where the McLaren is quicker, but the Bentley has shown quite quick on the straights, and this is no exception through the penultimate corner. Bean will stay behind for now, but he will not stay behind for long. That is certain. As now down the main straight. Will it be a good run from the Bentley? You can see the camera has panned away from the Bentley, so not a great launch from the Bentley, but you can see him creeping into view now. It's an amazing straight line speed for that, what is a British car, I do believe, unless I am mistaken. Is McLaren and Bentley British, yes? Or no?
Yes, it is. The
So it
Bentley
is
very British.
the battle of the Brits. And down into T3. Will it be a move for Bean? It's a very heavy move for Bean, very heavy on the brakes, and it's just not going to pan out well for him. He does get a technical giving way to Nico there, so that won't lose him nearly as much time as his mistake otherwise would, as now Dennis will also have to give way to the P1 driver, and it's not quite going to be giving way to the P1 driver. A little bit of contact, a little bit of chaos here, and now Bean and Dennis will go side by side. Not sure if the stewards will give a penalty for that. It might end up being a little bit lax, given no consequence really happened to Nico, and there was two cars fighting. They are fighting hard. It's an hour 50 into a 2-hour race. I think drivers are quite tired, quite done with this fight already. I know I certainly would be. The final 10 minutes is always just that stage of the race where you really just want to be over with it. You don't want to be here anymore. And Dennis is looking a little bit desperate as he sends the move down the inside. It's a little bit of a risky maneuver, but it will pan out in his favor. Side by side down the main straight. Bean has the outside line for turn 1. Will it be a move from Dennis to hold on to his position? But no, Bean fully ahead will hold on to it and snatch it away from the McLaren driver. So McLaren's mistake down into turn 4 has cost him the position with Bean in the long run, and now Bean will run away. He's only got to hold him off for 7 minutes. It's not that long a time to hold off a McLaren, especially when you're in a car like the Bentley, but his runs wide and has the outside line for turn 4. Bad run for the Bentley. Still going to be better launch out of the corner than the McLaren did. Down into turn 4, will it be the move for the McLaren to make it stick? You can see just how far the Bentley goes down the road with the straight line speed. Side by side on corner exit, Bentley sweeps around the outside, and it's Dennis still trying on that back foot to hold that inside line. Now turns to the outside line, and that is Bean fully ahead. So some great fighting here in the closing stages of the race. Drivers showing that they're not done yet. It's not over yet, and it's not over until you see that checkered flag wave at the end of the Grand Prix. And that checkered flag is not waving yet, and it's not going to be waving for another 6 minutes of racing, if that, if not a little bit more. Ivanov now passing the blue-flagged cars. He will not really be in a rush to do so. He's got a 20-second gap over Linus, so the drivers can take their time a little bit more than they otherwise would. Side by side on corner exit here, but the Bentley will be faster out of the final corner and will be faster down into the first corner. Mallow up ahead, very, very close behind Oliver Flynn, losing a bunch of time, so I think making a small mistake. Bean has pulled a nice gap to Dennis behind as well. So gap's opening up just a little bit, but it's not over yet.
The straight line speed from that Bentley is insane. I've always been told of the power of the Bentley, but seeing it in person.
Oh, but you haven't seen its braking yet. The Bentley does not slow down. It is a car that does one thing, and it does one thing very exceptionally, but it is not a jack of all trades such as the BMW. It cannot slow down.
Oh, it seems like in Ward's hands, he is stopping it just in time. I thought there was going to be contact there between the pair of them. This is an enthralling battle. I've joined right at the perfect time.
You have, and that's another move for Dennis. While we were watching another fight on track, Webby side by side with Andrew Taggart. Webby loses the position to Andrew Taggart here. What happened down into what was that, turn 4? Very strange.
Yeah,
Must have been a mistake from the Audi driver because he was so far ahead. Had such a lead. And down the back straight, so much speed from the McLaren. Webby might be lifting here. It's not a mistake into the corner. It's just very, very slow straight line speed. I wonder if Webby's almost out of fuel. Mind you, drivers can't pit for fuel anymore, so if you run out of fuel in your tank, there's no saving you. If Webby is out of fuel, that's going to play a huge impact. He could lose the position to Oster here. This could be the championship decider for the team championship. What was looking like a surefire position for him has now turned into him significantly dropped off. He's lost 13 seconds to Linus in front. I can't check his inputs, but you can, Darkness, see what throttle input he's using on the straightaways, what engine map he's using. I think we might be dealing with...
at the moment, so I think he is definitely
I think we're dealing... Yeah, I think he's dealing with a fuel issue here.
He's not lifting coasting, he's not taking it easy through the corners, but he's definitely on engine map 8. And I
He's
think this is
losing a
gonna be the
lot
lap
of
where
time
he's
to
gonna
the
lose
other
it to
drivers.
Aston Martin.
So from P4 on the grid, dropping down to P5, now losing it to Oster as well through turn 4. He's not even going to be able to defend it against the Aston Martin because it's just so much speed on the straights that he's losing out on. Might be switching engine maps to hold on to this position. It does look like he has switched the engine map to hold on to the position just for now. I don't know how much fuel he has left, though. This could be a risk not worth taking. Through turn 4 they go, and that Audi is going to be very, very slow through this middle sector. I think that is the play for Webby here, is just use the engine map when the Aston Martin isn't quick, and then have to deal with the increased fuel load on the straights. You could do a little bit of lift and coast with a car behind you. It's absolutely possible to save fuel with a car behind you, but it's so, so difficult. And in a situation like this, pressure's on. 2 minutes left on the clock. Nico has only just crossed the line, so it's 2 laps of racing left for these drivers. Can Webby hold on for 2 laps? That is the question, though. I'm not sure he can.
I don't think he will. If he's running low on fuel, and he's been on engine map 8 for a while, I think it's going to be quite a risk, as you mentioned.
But if he's been on engine map 8 for a while, he might be okay if he's been on it for a while and has switched off. I know he's using engine map 1 now, certainly. He's keeping up with the Aston Martin on the straightaway. He cannot pit for fuel. That's the biggest worry here. Pit window was set, I think, improperly. Not sure, I wasn't the one to set it. I didn't really discuss anything about setting up the server. It's not my job. But there was a pit window, and the pit window was set to open 30 minutes after the race start and 30 minutes before race close. So can't change tires, can't fuel the car.
Delightful.
It does look like Webby will hold on to this position, though. Confident driving from the Audi driver right now. I think he has has panic over. His miniature heart attack has ended. I would hope so. And he will make it to the end with the fuel he has left in his tank. Just barely. We'll keep an eye and make sure he doesn't run out of fuel, but he should be able to pull a gap to Oster now, as well, the Audi driver significantly quicker when on a good lap here compared to Oster.
I think it's exactly what you were suggesting. Running the fuel saving for quite some time, so now he can finish the race on that higher engine power, so he can defend with all his might. I say that as he gives the position.
He does give up the position here. I would be.
Back to
Would
engine mapping. I
be
think he's
interesting.
now having to really try and save as much fuel as he can. He expected the race perhaps to finish a bit sooner.
And perhaps he thought that was the final lap there.
I hope.
It is
I
a lift and
really
coast
hope.
all the way down the straightaway. He is not on the throttle here.
I hope he is not going to be our first driver to run out of fuel in the race. I'm gonna say it. I hope I'm not gonna jinx it.
And Max is closing the gap quite significantly here. You can see the car in the background. That's Max there. The Audi just has to hold on for a single lap more. We'll go on board with the wing camos, trying to find it. Nico crosses the line. He will win the race, but will Webby finish the race is the question we're all asking right now. Max is closed in 3 seconds now. Make it another as he goes through the next set of corners. It's going to be so close between Webby and Max here at the finish line. Webby is struggling for fuel. He's not going to make it if he pushes flat out, and Max has all the fuel in the tank he needs in order to finish the race. Down into the final sector, 2 more corners loom ahead of him. Max has gained 5 seconds this lap to the Audi driver. He's thinking about a move down the inside. Webby's going to brake late and hold him off just for a little bit more. 1 more corner left to go. It's going to be a final run to the straight. On to the finish line here. Webby will hold him off just for a little bit longer. It's going to be bumper to bumper as they cross the line. And it looks like it's just barely going to be Webby crossing the line in front of Max. 0.1 of a second separate them as they cross the line. What a finish that we have witnessed here for the final round of racing for Season 11 of Phoenix Sport. And my goodness, that's as close as it gets to a photo finish, especially for Webby. I'm sure he'll be a little bit happier now that the race has ended. Just didn't calculate the fuel properly, and that's an easy mistake to make. Nico will be our race winner here with that Ferrari. He still has fuel to keep on going around and around and around. Best lap from him, a 29.1, better than anyone else has done this race. Not a 28 quite. 28 was the quali pace, so just a little bit off of it. Ivanov in P2 with a beautiful drive today. A very earned and deserved position. Linus will hold on to his position with a penalty and stay in P3. I don't think he's losing the position to Andrew Taggart. Andrew Taggart will finish P4 from what was a pole position start. So going from first on the grid to having so much trouble with the final sector and just losing out. Ozdir in P5, gained the position to Webby last minute, and Webby with that absolute heartbreak of an ending. Yeah, it's about as bad as it gets. I'm sure Webby is not happy about it, but he has crossed the line and he has finished P6. Still positions gained for him. 8 positions gained from his starting position. It's going to make the team championship just that little bit closer, but I think he still manages to secure it for his team. Max in P7, nearly crossing the line with a bumper ahead, but Webby just about finished in front, and Nico will be our championship winner. And a beautiful drive from him all season. Hardly a mistake from the Ferrari driver. Very deserved, and hopefully he can join us for an interview. Just want to join the any of the calls. We'll drag you in. What a race today, and what a drive. 2 hours of non-stop action. It's about as good as it gets. We're seeing if Nico will join for the interview. He has. And hello, Nico. Welcome to the broadcast booth. What a race today, lapping the entire field, and then some.
Yeah, it was a good race. Sadly, Rufo signed out before. I already knew that, so it kind of was a fun race for me at the end. But yeah,
Had a little bit of incidents with blue flags, but I think everything went relatively smooth for you.
yeah, it was just this one maneuver I think you saw on stream as well. Like I saw them coming, didn't turn in, so yeah, didn't really cost anything.
Yeah, it was an amazing drive. Congrats on the season win. Absolutely deserved. Looking forward to seeing you on track for next season.
Yeah, thanks very much.
From what I saw, I mean, and throughout the whole season, Nico, you've been on absolute fire. Just tell us. I'm curious to know, how has that whole season been for you, considering the fact that you started off strong with, what was it, a 5-win streak?
Yeah, exactly. Sixth race was the rainy race in Hungary where Rufu killed me right in T1. But yeah, I mean, missing Julian and Lucky, yeah,
I think I can
sad
check
times,
for you.
but it's a good competition with Rufu.
Hopefully, next time, next season, we're going to see Rufo finally get that race victory, sitting in P2 in basically every single race. In fact, I think it has been P2 in every single race for him.
Yeah, except
Almost.
of
Spa.
Hungary
So
and
Nico,
Spa, yeah.
you have won. You won the first 5 races, second place at Hungaroring. You didn't come to the race at Spa, and then you won Red Bull Ring for a total of 395 points. I believe point doubling has actually accounted properly in the finale. Very nice. Amazing drive from you this season. Ivanov just finishing just behind Rufo in P3, and Andrew Taggart securing himself in P4. Usby, P5. Webby, with that final drive, has moved himself up into P6 in the championship, so played a huge impact for him. Berlin has finished in P7. Linus in P8.
Nico, congratulations on, well, first of all, probably the most boring race to ever have happened for you ever, I'm sure.
Yep, thanks.
I wanted to fight you an awful lot harder, but I was driving in my mirrors for those first few laps, and I just was making too many mistakes. I just had to, you know, just basically let you go and try to follow you as much as I could.
Yeah, it was an amazing battle to witness. It's unfortunate for you, Maverick, that you fell back. I'm gonna conclude the stream here and wish everyone the best. Thank you all for watching the stream. I think the driver of the day votes are in from the chat because we didn't. I need to figure out how to do an actual voting system on Twitch. I know there is a way.
There is, I'll show you.
Webby has won the driver of the day though, with the just community votes. I would agree with that decision. And hope you all join us for the next season. Not sure exactly when it starts. Not sure who will be streaming it, but I hope you will support them in that stream as you've supported me. And thank you very much for watching.
Thank you, everyone.